If you want a man, if you want him to see you as special and unique and different, someone that he wants to treat differently than all the other women that he meets, more valuable, more interesting, somebody that he wants to commit to and be with in a long-term committed relationship, a woman that he will move mountains for and travel to the ends of the earth to be with, then you want him to see you as highly valuable to him. If that sounds good to you, go into the chat and type yes, and let's get started here. Hello, my name's Matthew Coast, and I am on Helena Hart's channel right now. So thank you so much for having me here, Helena.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. As you guys know, I love having Matt on my channel. He's the only person I let introduce the topics because he's so amazing at it. And yeah, you ready to jump in, Matt? Or is there anything you want to say before we get to these 5 steps?
I'm really grateful for you having me on the channel, and I'm excited to talk about this content, which I don't talk about all of this stuff all that often.
Yeah, I know some of these steps you said are totally brand new. You've never talked about them before. So I'm excited to get into this. What is that first step that a woman needs to know?
Okay, so the first step is something that I do talk about a lot. And we're going to be talking a little bit later about what to say to a man to make him immediately think of you as a high value woman, a woman that is special and different and unique. And so the first thing that we're going to be talking about, though, step number one is believing it yourself. You have to believe that you are a high value woman, a woman who deserves to be treated really, really well by a man, a woman who deserves to be in a committed relationship. And there's something that I talk about called the law of belief transference, which states that whoever believes something more strongly will transfer that belief to the other person. So if you don't believe that you're a high value woman, sometimes we'll talk about these techniques and women will go out and use some of the words, because a lot of women come to me for text messages or what to say to a guy type of stuff. And I have all that kind of stuff and it works really, really well. But sometimes they'll use it and it'll only work for a couple of weeks or a month or maybe 2 months at most. And then all of a sudden things start falling apart on them. And usually the reason for that is because they don't believe it themselves. And so through their communication with a man, they start convincing the man that they aren't actually that woman who believes that they are the high value woman, the prize. And so how do you know if you believe that you're valuable and that you deserve to be treated valuable? How do you know? How do you know that? And so I'm going to talk about the answer to that here in just 1 second, but let's talk about how to believe. How do you believe that you're valuable? How do you come from that state of being where you believe that you're a really high value woman? The way is one of the best ways that I've found is actually through affirmations. And so I have something that I call the Queen's Mantra. And the Queen's Mantra is something that you want to say to yourself. You want to repeat it to yourself over and over again. You want to put it in your mirror, somewhere that you're going to see it all the time. And it goes like this: I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. And so my suggestion is that you say that to yourself at least 3 times a day. I am valuable. I am worthy. I deserve to be cherished. Did you want to say that? And so with the Queen's Mantra, what you want to do is you want to repeat it to yourself, you want to emotionalize it, and you want to find evidence for it. And so going back to what we were talking about before with believing that you're valuable, how do you know if you believe that you're valuable and that you deserve to be treated valuable, like you're valuable? The way that you know is that you will not get into a situation where you're not being treated as valuable. So I had a woman come to me, actually, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and she was like, oh, this stuff that you talk about, you don't talk about when it doesn't work. And I said, I always talk about when it doesn't work, because she was talking about this guy where she, gave him this boundary. She set the standard, and this guy was like, well, I'm not going to deal with that. I'm going to go somewhere else. And I said, well, what do you think you should be doing in that situation? She's like, well, it didn't work. And I'm like, it did work. You found out who this man is. Absolutely. And how he's going to treat you. And now you get to decide what you're going to be doing from this point forward. And if you believe that you're valuable and that you deserve to be treated like you're valuable, then you walk away from that situation and you find somebody who will treat you like you're valuable.
I love that so much, Matt. That little mindset shift of no, actually it did work because you were able to find out who this person was and his intentions and interest level right away. And that is such an amazing gift because then you have the power to walk away, right? And that's what we want for everyone who's in a situation where they're not being valued and cherished, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're never going to be valued by a if you allow men into your life who are going to treat you like trash. So
true.
never allow those kinds of men into your life. Never do it. And get around people who treat you as valuable, even if it's just friends, family members. Remove anyone who doesn't treat you like you're valuable from your life, including family members, including friends, including coworkers. Anybody who doesn't treat you like you're valuable, remove them from your life. You only want people, you want to get used to being treated well by everyone in your life. And you want to get used to walking away from people who don't treat you like you're valuable.
So true. I don't know what you think about this, Matt, but something I've been talking about a lot in my recent videos, my shorter videos here on my YouTube channel is that, typically if a woman is engaging with this man on this sort of lower value level, meaning accepting crumbs, hanging on to a man who's not stepping up, all those kinds of things, she doesn't, if you're engaging with a man on this level, you don't all of a sudden at the same time attract a super high value available man. If you do, you're not going to be attracted to that kind of man because you're at this level here engaging with men who are not what you want, right? Ultimately for yourself in a relationship. So it's super important to break that cycle, detach from men like that, do everything Matt's talking about. I'm loving this. This is really, really important.
Yeah, exactly. It's a pattern. It's a pattern. It's a pattern of frames. And we're going to be talking about that here in just a minute. So let's talk about number 2 here.
Yeah.
Number 2 is getting rid of low value patterns. So everything's a pattern. Right there. One of the things I talk about is there are no low value people. There are only low value patterns.
So true.
If you're in a pattern for long enough, you end up taking that on as your identity. And so you want to break any kind of patterns where you're in low value patterns and move to patterns of high value, which is everything that we're talking about right now is in alignment with that. And so stop talking badly about men. These are low value patterns. Women will say things like all good men are taken, or men are all bad, or men are all narcissists, or whatever, which, by the way, I was just reading some studies on narcissism, and they found that around 1% of men are narcissists.
Yeah.
So if you're constantly dating narcissists, you might want to rethink what's going on in that situation. Another one is stop talking about men treating you badly, because high value women don't allow men to treat you badly. And so if you're telling men or you're allowing men to treat you badly, and then you're talking about it, you're giving signals to everybody that you allow that kind of behavior in your life.
Absolutely.
And that's what you accept, and that's what you expect, and that's what's going to happen, and that's what you're attracted to. And so stop talking about that. Stop allowing them into your life. Stop talking about men pulling away and disappearing on you. Stop talking about men cheating on you. Stop talking about your exes being low value people or whatever. Stop talking about any of that kind of stuff, because you don't want to tell everybody that that's who you date and who you're around and how men treat you. You want to talk about how men treat you really, really well. And we'll talk about that here in a minute.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Can I just jump in and say how amazing and important that is? It's so true. I mean, something I always talk about is like kind of like that. Every time you appreciate something, you're saying more of this, please, like to the universe. You're not just sending this signal to the man, but the opposite is true too. Every time you complain about something, every time you feel triggered and frustrated and, but you don't detach from men like that. You just keep engaging with men like that. Not only are you sending the signal to the man that you're okay accepting crumbs, that's what you believe you deserve deep down, you're kind of sending that signal out to all men everywhere, right? You become a magnet for those experiences. It's just heartbreaking for us to see that. So it's super important what you think about, talk about, focus on, that's what you're going to attract. So for everyone listening to this, what new story do you want to tell about dating or your love life? I'd love to hear that as well. Just start to shift things right away.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so I just want to go over a few more low value patterns. one is the whole thing of convincing, proving, chasing, planning, manipulating, controlling, fighting, arguing, getting upset all the time, needing him to make you happy, constantly baiting for compliments, those kinds of things. Allowing men to treat you badly or push past your boundaries or giving your power away. So just stop staying in low value patterns. Just stop it.
Yeah.
Just stop it.
Yeah, so important. You can't move on to anywhere else if you're stuck in these low value patterns. So important. Oh my gosh, I'm loving this so much. I don't know anything you're about to share. So I'm hearing this for the first time too. And I'm loving every word coming out of your mouth right now. Amazing.
Cool. Cool. Awesome. So step number 3, let's talk about step number 3, which is getting him to invest. And one of the things that I talk about all the time is that men value things that they work for and earn. And so you want him to work for and earn you. You want him to invest in you. That's kind of the key word that we're talking about here is investment. And so how do you do that? How do you get a guy to invest in you? And here's what you want to do. It's a 2-step process. Step number 1 is you ask him to invest. And you can do this with a whole bunch of different things. This is if he's not already doing it. So some guys will just start investing. Some guys won't, and they won't know that you want them to invest. And so all you have to do is ask them to start investing. And most guys will start doing that because they feel like you're a hero. They feel like they're strong. They feel like they're winning the day. They feel like they're winning with you. And so you just ask them to help you with things. Say, hey, can you help me with this? And just start getting him to do things. So like, let's say, for instance, that you're going out on a date for a hike. You're going on a hiking date. You can just ask him to stop by the store and get some water for you guys. Be like, yeah, hey, I'm really busy and we don't have any bottled water. Can you pick some up at the store for our hike? Or bringing something like some snacks or something when you guys hang out or you go for a walk or something like that. And you want to start out small with your asks. Just ask them for small things and eventually build up on those. And then step number 2 is to allow him to invest. And so stop trying to fill empty space. I hear women do this all the time where a guy will stop talking and then they'll start, talking a whole bunch to try to get rid of that empty space, or the guy will pull back. And so they'll try to fill in that space by moving towards him, initiating contact, pursuing him, all that kind of stuff. And so you want to become very comfortable with empty spaces and creating empty spaces for a man so that he can come and fill that empty space. So times where nobody needs to talk, or times where he needs to come to you, or times when he needs to reach out to you instead of you reaching out to him. And so you're creating investment. You're allowing him to invest and he's investing in you. Does that make sense?
So important. Yeah.
Okay. So that's investment. And here are some other ways that you want him to invest. You want him to think about you. You want him to get emotional with you. You want him to buy you things. You want him to take risks, emotional or physical, or taking steps forward where he feels like it's risky. They've actually done studies on this where they found that the more that a man feels like he's taking risks with a woman, the more that he'll feel emotionally attached to her. So you want him to do those things, put effort into seeing you, planning things, and doing things for you. So that's step number 3. So 1 is believe it yourself. 2 is get rid of low value patterns. 3, get him to invest in you. And then we're moving on to 4. You ready for 4, Helena?
Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear.
Number 4 is creating an agreement with him. And so what this is we're moving into something that I call the value frame. And if you're not familiar with my work at all, what framing is a spoken or unspoken social agreement about the meaning of something. And so in this case, you're creating an agreement with him that's stating that you are valuable. And so how do you do this, right? So we talked a little bit before about frames, right? Or patterns. So when you create a frame that says that you are valuable, and then that frame comes up over and over and over again, it becomes a pattern. And then once that pattern happens over and over and over again, it eventually becomes a part of your identity. And it becomes a part of the identity of the two of you. And so he will be around you and he will start thinking of you as high value, and that'll become his identity of who you are as a woman, if that continues.
So important. Oh my gosh, I love that. Something I always say is once something becomes your identity, like it's pretty much a done deal until you shift things. You know, if your identity is things don't work out for me in my love life, or maybe I can attract a guy, but I can't get the right ones to stay. If that's just who you are to yourself, there's no way you're going to get out of that until you start shifting your beliefs, your actions, everything. So that's really important. Can you hear me okay, Matt, by the way?
I can hear you.
Okay,
great.
I keep shifting my microphone because we were having some sound issues right before, so I'm a little anxious about it, but awesome. Okay, I'll stop messing with it if you can hear me. Yeah, I love this. Anything else you want to say about this one?
Yeah, actually, let's talk about it a little bit deeper. Let's go a little bit deeper into it. So what are the frames that you want to set, other than that you're just valuable? Like what sets these frames? And there's a whole bunch of them. What it is different frames. So frames that you want to set is that he is a gentleman. Because the gentleman frame, what that is him treating you like you're valuable. Right? All those things that a man does, where he's providing and protecting you, where he's opening up doors for you, where he's, walking on the outside of the street, where he's taking care of you. He's showing that you are this really valuable person to him, and he's making sure that you're taken care of. And so whenever you can push him into a role of being a gentleman, that is a really, really great frame to set around your relationship. And so you want to do that anytime you possibly can. We'll talk a little bit about how to do that here in a second. You want to set a frame of you are a woman of value. You want to set a frame of you get treated well by men, which we were just talking about a little bit ago. You want to set a frame of you walk away from men who don't treat you well. You want to set a frame, you want to set all of those frames around you, because that sets you as this high value woman that he wants to treat well. And so these are agreements that you want to have with yourself and with him. And like I said, long-term frames turn into patterns, and patterns turn into identity or shared identity. And so how do you do this? How do you actually set these frames? How do you communicate this to a man? Well, one of the ways to do it is through boundaries. And one of my favorite ways to set boundaries is the I have a rule statement. And so here's how it goes. Is you say, I have a rule. And this can be absolutely arbitrary, meaning it can be about anything, right? You can just make this stuff up if you want to. I suggest that all of your boundaries have actual legitimate reasons behind them, but you can do it with anything you want to if you want to. So here's how you do it. You say, I have a rule. I don't sleep with guys outside of a relationship. Or I have a rule. I don't come over for booty calls. I have a rule. I only date gentlemen. I have a rule. I only date men who treat me like I'm special. And like I said, you can do this with anything. And it's really, really powerful because it sets the frame. It sets this frame. And then he gets to either accept the frame or reject the frame.
Yeah.
Then you get to decide whether you want to continue spending time with him or not.
I think that's great. I have never heard you say that before. So I'm loving all this new information. What do you guys think about this?
Okay. So the next one is setting the gentleman frame with, could you walk me to my car? Or could you walk me to my Uber? Or could you walk me to my apartment? Or could you walk me to wherever, right? Whenever you're saying that, basically you're asking to be under his protection, right? That's kind of the underlying assumption or meaning that goes when you ask him to walk you somewhere. Is you're like, hey, can I be under your protection, which is a gentleman frame, right? You're saying you're the gentleman. I'm this valuable, amazing girl that you're going to be protecting on the way to my car, right? And so anytime you can do stuff like that, that's really, really powerful. Another one is men are secretly trying to win your heart and commit to you. So this is a really, really powerful frame. And the way that you do this is either through telling stories of times that things like this have happened, or accusing him of falling in love and wanting something real with you. And you can do either one of these very, very easily. So for instance, let's talk about some examples here. So telling stories is one of the best ways to do it. And so the way that you do it is, finding friends who profess their love to you. And so if you're like a lot of women, maybe you have some guy friends who you thought were just friends of yours. And then one day they snap, right? And they start like professing their love to you. And if you can tell stories of that, it's a great story to tell. Or you make men crazy in love with you. And so these things are like stalker stories. If you have any stories of guys turning into stalkers around you, or wanting something like really deep with you, or proposing to you, right? Some guy proposed to you and you rejected him because you're like, I don't think so, or whatever. Those are all really, really great stories to tell to guys, because you're setting up a frame that you're this really high value woman that men want to commit to, men fall in love with, they're crazy about you, right? Or you make players want to commit. So anytime you've had a player who's agreed to commitment or wanted commitment, the frame in your mind that you want to set, the social agreement that you want to have set with yourself is that these players are just pretending. What they're really looking for is a high value woman that they can commit to, but they haven't found them. But every time they're around me, it's like they commit to me. They want to commit to me, but I'm picky and I'm choosy. And so I get to decide who comes into my life and who doesn't. And you have to meet my standards in order to get there.
I love it. So these are the new stories you're telling yourself. We have the new story you're telling yourself. I'm never heard you say any of this before, so I'm loving all of this, Matt. Anything else you want to say on that one?
No, I mean, that's it, right? Okay. So what we've been talking about up until now is perception, right? It's the way that he views you. And we've been twisting perception around. And that's very, very important, because we all have a different perception about things. And depending on how our perception is, determines how we interact with different things, how we treat it and whatnot. Well, there's another kind of layer to things, which is actually being more valuable to him. I know that's an amazing thing. We never really talk about this, but actually being a lot more valuable to him. And what does that even mean though? Like, how do you actually be more valuable to a man? And the answer is emotions. And so you want to connect with him through his emotions. And so step number 5 is build your emotional value in his life. And what that looks like is building a range of emotions. So think about it in terms of like a movie, right? So really, really great movies have make you go through lots and lots of different emotions, right? The best movies, you cry during them and you laugh during them, and there's like suspense, you don't know what's going to happen, right? You go through all these different emotions, and once you've experienced that, you're like telling your friends about the movie, and you're like watching the movie over and over and over again, and you're thinking about the movie, and then you're like quoting the movie and stuff like that. You want to be like a really good movie to him. And the way that you do that is by connecting with him through a wide range of different emotions. And there's a whole bunch of different ways to do that. And one of the ones that I talk about in great depth and detail in the Chase Formula event is his emotional needs, connecting to his emotional needs. And it's really, really important, because emotional needs are things that it's not something that we'd like to have. It's something that's absolutely vital and essential, and that we need, and that we will go and find it wherever we have to go and find it. So for instance, let's talk about one of them, which is the need for variety or excitement, right? So variety is one of our emotional needs. And this is actually the number one cause of cheating, of what men have said is the number one reason that they've cheated in a relationship, was because of a lack of excitement, passion, and variety in the relationship. And so if you can connect with him through his emotional need of variety, he won't feel like he needs to look other places and go somewhere else. He can feel like he can get those needs met through you, and then he'll become addicted to you, because that's what happens when you get your needs met from one single source, is you start to become addicted to it, and then you can't get enough of it. You want to be around it all the time. And so let's talk about variety from a practical standpoint for just a second here. Like how do you connect with him in a variety of different ways? There's a lot of different ways to do it, right? One way is just going out and doing new things, right? Doing new things with him, like having new experiences. So anytime you have new experiences or he feels new emotions, that is variety. And so cutting things out from everything always being mundane and boring and creating new experiences. Maybe you watch new movies together. Maybe you go to new restaurants together. Maybe you ask each other new questions, or you go deep into, psychological things or whatever with each other. You just have fun and you play and you get into new things. Maybe you go and explore new areas, or you go travel together or something like that. So there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can connect with the emotional need of variety and make it so that he feels like he's getting all of his need of variety from you, so that he doesn't need to get it from an external source. One is connection, right? Building a connection. And the most powerful way to do that is through something called partnership. And so partnership is this feeling like you're both on the same team. You're going through life together. You're partners in life, going to the same place together. That is partnership. And when you create partnership with a man, he feels like he can be with you in a long-term committed relationship. And it's absolutely vital. If we actually have a coach on our team, Celine Remy, and Celine, I remember when she joined our team, she was actually getting married at the time. And, so I started asking her questions about it, and she was talking about her fiance and how her fiance actually never wanted to get married. Like he never wanted to get married. He was like one of those guys who his family went through a bunch of divorces, and everybody he knows went through a whole bunch of divorces. And so he was like, I'm never getting married. And then he met Celine. And next thing you know, he completely did a 180. And so I was like, okay, I have to talk to your man. Right? And so I call him up and I'm like, hey dude, what's up? My name's Matt Coast, Celine works with me. Right. And I'm like, so tell me what happened. Right. And he's like, oh, well, he's like, it was just, you're right. This is how it was. And I never wanted to get married. And I swore to myself that I would never, ever get married. And then, when I was dating Celine, it was like, she was always there for me. She was always on my side. She always was like helping me, and she knew what I needed, and she, could come over and calm me down, or, help me with something. And, I just fell so deeply in love with her because of that, that I wanted to show her how much I love her and care for her. And the way that I did that was through getting married to her and showing
oh my gosh,
she's the only one that I ever want to be with for the rest of my life.
I didn't know that. That's amazing. Okay, you're gonna have to talk to Tom next. I don't know if you guys saw our last live stream we did together. Someone in the chat asked, was Tom, my husband, was he marriage minded when he was on Bumble? You guys know we met online, and the answer is no. In his looking for section, he said he didn't know what he was looking for. He had no idea. But within 6 weeks, he said he knew I was the one. He knew when he wanted to propose if things kept going, well. And so it's not like a lot of men don't have this exact age in mind that where they want to settle down, or some men like Celine's husband don't ever see themselves getting married, but then when they meet the right one, I just think the right guy knows a good thing when he sees it and he acts on it. We have so many questions in the chat about men who won't commit. They say the woman's amazing, she's great, perfect for each other, but they just don't want to commit. And in my opinion and experience, the right guy knows what he wants and he comes after it. It doesn't take years and years and years for the right guy to know what he wants, right?
Yeah, he'll see you, and men start slotting women into different categories. And it is possible to go from a category of like being in a friend with benefits situation to a category of being in a committed relationship, but it's a lot harder to do that, right? It's a lot easier for him to see you and think, oh, I want this committed relationship. And it's a lot easier for him to actually go from committed to I just want a friend with benefits if you slot yourself into that, right? If you put yourself into that frame. And so you want to always come from the frame of, only letting men in if they're looking for something real. And if they're looking for something real and they're talking about it with you, and they can see you as somebody that they want something real with.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get involved. You especially don't want to get attached to men that don't see you in that way and don't feel about you that way.
So true. It's so important not to overinvest, not to get attached until the guy shows you with his actions, right? Not just his words, but his masculine action towards you that he's serious and he's moving things forward, right? Then go ahead and give him a shot. But I see so many women, you know, they choose men in their mind or in their hearts before he's shown her that that's something he even wants. So it's really important to become aware of some of these things.
Yep. Jumping in the pool before he's even decided he wants to get in.
Yeah. Yep. Totally. Totally. I love that. Is there